Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Well, I'm broadcasting a little bit early for me, but it's actually quite late for my guest. It's 11 p.m. where she lives in Hong Kong. Her name is Jung Soo, and the reason she's coming on the show is because you wanted to see this recipe. The week that we had the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle, we were talking about the various bundles and the various books, and that there was a recipe for a raw kimchi that was not only raw, but that was salt-free. And it's so hard to find things that are delicious and salt-free, especially when it comes to fermenting food. And if you watched the show a couple of days ago with the microbiome expert, Dr. Seidelman, she explained that when you buy these fermented foods already refrigerated, they have no value. And Jung Soo is going to show you how easy it is to make your own healthy, delicious, raw, and salt-free, along with her special teddy bear, which she'll talk about. Please welcome her to the show. Thank you so much for staying up so late to do this.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I have to say, Chef AJ, this is a little bit surreal because I've watched you with your interviews with other guests, and to be able to speak to you is just surreal.
Oh my God. Well, it's such a pleasure to meet you. And you have such a cute story with your little bear, because I follow you on Instagram. And you want to talk about your bear before you get into the recipe? You don't even look old enough to be doing this, but you are a little bit older than you look, I think.
Yes, I'm actually 39.
Oh my God. I don't know if I'm guessing you don't drink alcohol, but if you did, I bet you would be carded, because you look like you're, not even in high school. You look amazing. And I'm sure part of it is that raw food diet.
Maybe. I think a lot of it is just that being Asian. I had that even before I went vegan. So
Wow.
yeah.
Well, we can't. Anyway, you look great. And that is fantastic. How easy or hard is it to be raw in Hong Kong? What's the food like there? And are there a lot of vegans there?
I would say that being vegan is not too difficult if you know what to ask for. But it is, generally speaking, it is very meat heavy. That is true. Like most people eat a standard, diet, so
Yeah.
domestic diet.
Right. Well, how did you discover the raw diet and the vegan diet, and when?
By accident. So I've been vegan for a while, and I was kind of one of those terrible vegans that, felt like because I was doing something good for the animals already, that I didn't have to worry about my health. And I was eating all kinds of junk, and I had terrible acne, and I had terrible menstrual pain. And after I went vegan, my menstrual pain was significantly diminished, but my acne was still lingering. And I'd heard about the raw diet. And so I started experimenting. And when I went fully raw, the acne started to clear up dramatically. So, and then my menstrual pain vanished within 2 cycles. So that was it. I was sold. And I felt so light. I slept a lot better, and I had no bloating. I didn't realize how bloated I was until I went raw. So that was like day one. The morning after I done a fully raw day, my stomach was so flat that I was actually a bit concerned. I thought, is this normal? Like that I was not so flat the previous days. So
What were you eating on the regular vegan diet? Because I know that some people say when they try raw, they get the opposite effect, that they actually get more bloated.
yeah, well, you know what's interesting? When I first went vegan, I was living in a small rural Japanese town where they didn't have specialty designer vegan food. So I was eating relatively clean, but I got a bit more sophisticated and learned that if I just took a train 2 hours west, I could get all kinds of junk food, and that's where things went kind of wrong. But at home, I ate relatively clean. I was just eating things like rice and stews and curries, things like that.
I wonder if one day, they're doing so much research and talk about the microbiome, if they'll be doing that and find out that, what diet, and hopefully it'll be vegan for everybody, is best for, which person.
Yeah, that would be nice to know for sure.
But, but I'm for whatever works. And that's why I don't think people should insist on being, I mean, I want everyone to be vegan just for the animals and the planet, but I don't care I don't even care if you're a junk food vegan, as long as you're vegan, but I think people have to find what works for them. And I'm always fascinated to hear people's diet and what works for them. But everybody's asking about the teddy bear. Is he raw too?
Yeah, is breatharian because he doesn't eat. But yeah. Oh, you asked me about the teddy bear. He was actually a gift from a friend of mine in Japan when I was living in Japan. And she was a Japanese lady who was married to an English gentleman. So they spent half their time in the UK and half their time in Japan. She had this teddy bear on the sofa, and she could tell that I immediately took to him. And she said, well, I don't really cuddle him that much anyway, so you can have him. And lucky me, he's been with me ever since.
Does he have a name?
Teddy.
Oh, very, very original.
Easy to remember.
But he's featured in a lot of your Instagram posts.
Yeah, I can't explain what it is, but it just brings me so much joy. So.
That's hilarious. Well, that's great. I'm all for it. Well, you seem very happy. And what do you work full time as a raw food chef?
Well, at the moment, I guess I'm an entrepreneur, an online entrepreneur. So I work on things like creating recipes and sharing online content about the lifestyle. Because I've experienced so many benefits from it, and I didn't know. And I feel like letting people know is something that is my calling at the moment. So that's what I'm doing now.
When you had all these symptoms of dysmenorrhea and acne and bloating, did you ever seek any medical help for it? And if so, what did the doctor say was the reason?
Very good question. So growing up, I had been to the doctor several times because when I say dysmenorrhea, it was bad. Like, I would actually pass out. I would just lose consciousness. And I would have to even be taken by ambulance to the emergency room. And every time I went to see these doctors, they were always busy. They always seemed to be too busy for me. And there was always this attitude of, you're in the emergency room for menstrual pain. You're making a big deal out of nothing. That was the kind of response that I would get from these typically middle-aged men. And so by the time I was in my 30s and I had another incident in my own home, I actually ended up passed out on my own kitchen floor. I very reluctantly went back to see another doctor. I didn't want to because I knew that what they were going to tell me. They were going to tell me that it's genetic, that there's nothing that you can do, just take a painkiller. And that's what I did for years. I just took painkillers. I just took pills, ibuprofen and the like. So this doctor in Japan, he was telling me the same thing. He said, oh, this is normal. This is just what women have to deal with. And I insisted at this point because I just knew something was not right. It was not right. And so he finally, and that was interesting too, there was resistance. I wanted him to check my hormones. And he said, no need to do that. This is normal, like period pains are normal. But I pushed, and finally he agreed to do a pelvic scan. And that pelvic scan revealed that I had a uterine fibroid. And I didn't know what a fibroid was then. I was like, what the heck is that? And he explained it to me. It's a growth in the uterus that is not malignant, but he said typically it does have to be removed. And I said, well, what kind of treatment is there? And I thought he was going to give me some kind of medication or recommend some kind of lifestyle change, but nope. He immediately went to surgery, fibroid removal surgery. And I was shocked because I'd never had surgery in my life. And I must have looked horrified because he actually started laughing. And he said, don't worry, this surgery is totally normal. It's totally routine. Women get it done all the time. And I actually couldn't believe it. Surgery is so invasive. How could it be routine? How could it be? It's certainly not a part of my routine. And I don't want it to be for any woman. Why should it be? So that scared me into doing some of my own research, and I accidentally came across things about veganism. And I didn't realize at first that it was about animal rights. It was only later on when I came across slaughterhouse footage and things like that, that I learned about the animal rights aspect of it.
That's
So,
great.
yeah.
One of your fans is watching and says, you like to sing.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I upload some of my singing to my Instagram too.
That's great. Well, how did you figure out to make kimchi without salt? Like, let me ask you this. Were you making kimchi with salt before, or did you just learn how to make it without salt when you learned how to make it?
That's the thing. I know that traditionalist, any traditionalist, purist Korean who's watching this is going to say, she's doing it wrong. You've got to do the traditional salting process. But you know what? I like to break things down, and I like to know why we do the steps that we do. And I think most women or most people who make kimchi don't even question. They just do it because it's a family tradition. It's the recipe that was handed down. But traditionally, to my understanding, the reason why we salt the cabbage is to remove the excess water. That's number one. And then number two is for the taste. We like the salty flavor. But if removing the excess water is what you want, there are other ways to do it. You don't have to use the salt. And I mean, I found with consuming too much salt, you get all that water retention too, right? And I don't enjoy that either. And as for the taste, I know you've talked about this with people like Dr. Alan Goldhammer, but that's actually just habit, isn't it? Oh,
See, you have a teddy bear, and I have a little dog. Come on, go say hi. Oh, usually I'm walking her at this time. Bailey, look at Teddy. I don't think they see each other. Did you ever see the movie Ted?
I did not.
I think you should watch it. It's a movie where a teddy bear comes to life. It's hilarious and adorable. It's with Mark Wahlberg, and he has this stuffed teddy bear that becomes real. It's really, really, it's kind of dirty, but it's really funny.
Marky Mark.
Yeah. It's funny because, pickles, sauerkraut, all that stuff traditionally has a lot of salt. And I think it's exactly for the reason you say, to draw the water out. But there's chefs at True North that make these without salt. So it totally can be done.
Yeah. And they say it's for the preservation as well. But we have things like refrigerators.
That's right. That's the other thing, right? We have refrigeration now, which we didn't have a long time ago. So they needed salt to preserve it.
Yeah, so I just feel it's unnecessary, and especially with what's available on the market, there's so much salt in everything else that we don't need the additional salt.
Right. I just interviewed Dr. Furman for my upcoming Truth About Weight Loss Summit that airs next year. And he said it dummies down your taste buds, salt. It dummies down your taste buds. So you can't really appreciate anything.
Yes, it's kind of scary, actually, when I realized that we don't need that much salt.
Right. I mean, until people actually neuroadapt to going salt-free, they can't understand what we're talking about, how food tastes better. It's like when people smoke, they can't understand until they stop, or, when they stop coffee. People, when they're in an addictive process, they can't imagine life without it. But man, it's like now when I get salt, it's like, ugh. Terrible tasting to me. It tastes like the ocean in my mouth. Somebody's asking if you like, I don't know what this is, Oshinko. Do you know what that is? Oshinko?
I don't know what that is. Is it?
Yeah, say what it is. Terry's saying, but isn't the salt what causes the fermentation?
That's the sugars that causes the fermentation, not the salt. The salt is for the flavor and the preservation and to remove the excess water from the cabbage. Traditional.
Nice. What kimchi is traditionally, it's served as a garnish in meals. Is that usually what most people serve it as?
Yeah, so the staple in the Korean diet is not barbecue meat, as many people believe. It's actually rice. We would eat rice and then have various vegetable dishes. And one of them is kimchi. So kimchi, I grew up eating kimchi every day, until I was in my teens and I discovered other things like cheese and
That's cool. No, I love it. Well, I can't wait to see you make this because I'm going to do this, but I like to watch people make things more than just look at a recipe. I learn better when I can see it rather than just read it.
Well, I hope this goes well.
Oh, I think it will. Why wouldn't it? You got Teddy to help you.
Yes, Teddy's gonna watch from afar. So I like to think of kimchi as like a salad. You've got your like veggies in a big bowl, and then you've got your kimchi paste, which is like the dressing. And it's just fermented salad, essentially. That's how I think of it. So I eyeball the ingredients. I don't even measure them particularly, but in my dressing bowl right now, I don't know if you can see, but I've got half a white onion. I've got some minced ginger and minced garlic, and it smells really nice. And this is a diced pear. And you can use the pear, yeah, you can use the Asian pear, but I just use this one. I like the sweetness.
And that's where your sugar's going to come from.
Yes, exactly. And not just from the pear, but also from my dates, which I soaked, and I also minced them. So these are my minced dates, and you can use any kind of dates, but I use this brand for anyone who's interested. It's organic sun-dried dates from somewhere, from Tunisia. So I soaked them, you can soak them overnight, but I actually soaked these earlier this afternoon. So that was enough to get them soft. And I would just say that when you soak the dates, don't use too much water. So as you can see, it's soaked up quite a lot of the water. So it looks like there's not much water in there, but it is in there. So I'm just gonna add this into my dressing bowl here. I don't know if you can see. I'm gonna add this in.
How did you come up with the recipe?
By accident. Just experimenting. So like everyone else, I use salt as well. But it was thanks to watching shows like yours. I would watch you talking to Dr. Goldhammer and Dr. Who was it? Neil Barnard, I think it was, and Dr. John McDougall. And just listening to the health vegans got me started with the eliminating salt. And then I started wondering, well, I wonder if kimchi actually needs salt. And I tried it and it tasted fine. So that's why I kept doing it. Now I'm going to add the super important ingredient, which is the Korean red pepper flakes. We call it gochugaru. And I prefer to use the Korean red pepper flakes, but you can use like the Japanese kind too. In Japan, they have the ichimi togarashi. That's what I think it's called. But this is the Korean kind. And recently, Raw Chef Yin actually made it with Thai peppers.
Do you think we could get that in the United States, maybe at a specialty store?
Yeah, definitely. Like in Koreatown, they would definitely have this gochugaru, the Korean red pepper flakes. So I'm going to grab a spoon and put in 3 heaped spoonfuls. It's my spoon. Oops. Ooh. Couldn't find my spoon, but I have this one. So I'm just going to add like a heaped. And kimchi is quite forgiving. I think kimchi is one of those things that was kind of discovered by accident, you know, like cheese. Somebody left something for too long and it fermented. That's my theory. So you can't really go wrong with kimchi.
How long does it last once you make it and put it in the refrigerator?
I usually eat it pretty soon, but it lasts for weeks, months even, I've heard. But I eat it within days, so I've never put it to the test as Dr. Greger likes to say.
Yeah.
Gotta put things to the test.
We put it to the test.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to add some more later to this as we finish things up. But for now, I've put in 3 heaped spoonfuls. And now things are going to start getting really fragrant in here because I'm going to mix this up. Oh, actually, I wanted to show you, the reason why I have this here was to show you why people salt their cabbage. The salting process is to get this sort of rubbery texture, this kind of wilted texture. That's the only reason why they salt it, other than the taste and the preservation. So you can do that by doing what I did, which I just left the cabbage in my fridge overnight. I just aired them out, and the excess moisture will just naturally evaporate. So you don't actually need to salt the cabbage. So I've got it here, but I've just sliced it up like this, big chunks. I know that traditionally, some people just make the kimchi, which is like the whole leaf. They just use the whole leaf, but I like to cut them up just so that they're bite-sized. There is my cabbage, and I think I don't need the chopping board anymore, so I'm going to put it away. And we're going to start mixing.
Could you use purple cabbage if you wanted to?
You can use anything. I've seen people use, you know, cucumber, other types of radish. Oh, I forgot to mention, I used the daikon radish, but you can use the Korean radish too. Either is fine. You can, like I said, it's very forgiving. You can use any vegetable you like.
How long does it take to ferment once you mix it all together? Do you blend the ingredients for the dressing?
You can, but I just did it with a knife because I happen to not have a blender. So just mince everything with a knife, and that's how my mother did it too. So
does anyone in your family eat the way you do?
Oh, nobody's vegan, but yeah. Family's tough, isn't it? Is your family vegan?
Just once, what I have left, one sister is, but you know, they're all dead because they didn't eat the way we tell them to. But eat before that, no, just one sister. And my husband, of course.
Your sister, was that from your influence, I guess?
You know, really, John McDougall. I was vegan for years and years and it didn't sway her. And then she heard John McDougall speak and boom, she's vegan the next meal. What can I tell you?
I love John McDougall.
Yeah, people don't listen to friends and family. It's very.
That is true. That is very true. Yeah, I saw that, you know, the activist, the animal rights activist, Gary Yourofsky, his family is not vegan.
It's almost like they go further away once we become vegan.
Yeah, what can you do? I think just do your best, I guess. But yeah, I love Dr. John McDougall. He's got that book, right?
Starch Solution, McDougall Program for Maximum Weight Loss, Digestive Tuna.
The picture book.
That's the healthiest foods on the planet, or the healthiest diet on the planet, I think, or I don't remember the name of it. He's written so many.
Well, he had the color picture book because he told me
right.
He was tired of like publishing proper books.
Yeah, he said, even my grandchildren can understand this.
Yes, yes. So as you can see, it is very, very red, and it is very, very pungent, which is what you want. And you can do this with your hands, but it can actually sting. So I like to use my mixing spoon. And you have to be patient to get the spices all nicely mixed in, because that's what makes it good, I think. But it is definitely smelling very nice. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say was you don't have to use dates. I actually tried it the other day with persimmon. The only catch is that the persimmon must be super ripe, like translucent, super duper ultra next level ripe.
Yeah, or it probably wouldn't be sweet then.
Yeah, it has to be, because the sugars, you need those sugars to, and like traditional recipes use granulated sugar. You don't need that stuff. Although I guess it's not too harmful because of the fermentation process. It's not like having, Coca-Cola, for instance, but just saying that you can do this with entirely whole food ingredients and there is no need to.
Absolutely. There's never a need to use sugar if people don't want to. Hey, so maybe we could start fermenting our kimchi with Coca-Cola. That'll be something different.
That would be an idea. Don't give them any idea.
I know, watch, somebody will start doing it.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to start mixing. And here's the thing, I recommend not just dumping everything in at once. Do it in stages because that just makes it easier. So I'm going to add a dollop of this dressing into my big bowl. And then it's the same thing. You've got to start rubbing it in and being very careful not to break the cabbage. Just mixing it gently. And this takes some time because if you want to get it into all the nooks and crannies.
What about like massaging it with your hands or food service gloves?
You could. I do have my gloves here. I
always like to get my hands in it.
Yeah, it kind of stings, the red pepper. That's why I use my...
Makes sense.
Yeah, but my mother would use gloves. She used to do it with her bare hands, but I guess it stung her too. So. Yeah, but you can definitely use gloves. I'm going to use this later for when I pack it into the jar, but not for the actual mixing. Yeah. How did you discover? I saw your weight loss pictures, and you have a great story too.
Thank you.
How did you discover the? I guess through Dr. McDougall. Is that how you?
Well, yeah, Dr. McDougall, Dr. Lyle, Dr. Goldhammer, because I've been vegan for 45 years. So I just was vegan before I even heard of any of these doctors, but I was a very unhealthy junk food vegan. Yep.
Oh, wow.
It took me to get sick. So, here's a question from Mandy. Why not break the cabbage? Why don't break the cabbage?
Well, I guess it's just for appearance, right? It looks nicer if it's not all broken down into mush.
So how many years have you been on a raw diet now?
Just over 1 year now.
That's all. Wow, fantastic. So can you tell us like what a day's worth of eating might look like for you?
I eat a lot of fruit, which is so funny to me now because as a child, I would avoid fruit like the plague. I would have like the tiniest portions only because my mother would coax me. But now it's fruit. I have huge meals of fruit and salads. And at the moment, I don't have any food processor, but if you have a food processor, when I did back in Japan, I would also have smoothies and I would make dressings for my zoodle salads at night.
Nice.
Yeah, very heavily fruit-based. And yeah, lots of lettuce for my greens. And like kimchi is something that like I told you, I used to eat it every day, but nowadays it's actually not something that I would consider optimal. So occasionally I would have it, but it's not something that I would have every day. Because even without the salt, you have all the spices, which can, in my experience, can also pull water from the body, can be dehydrating. And what I found beneficial about the raw diet is that it's so hydrating. So kimchi is nice once in a while, for sure. And
Mandy wants to know what your favorite fruit is.
my favorite fruit, oh, I cannot choose, but recently I've been enjoying durians. We get very nice durians from Thailand, from Vietnam, from Malaysia. The Malaysian ones are expensive though, the Musang King. Wow, they are so good, but they are so expensive. So here we're just mixing gradually, bit by bit. I'm gonna add some more. And I'm actually wearing a dark t-shirt right now because sometimes if you wear a white t-shirt, it can get on, the red stuff can get onto your white t-shirt and make it look like you had a murder scene, crime scene. So it's getting more and more red, and that's what you want. Very fragrant as well. Where are you, by the way? Where
I'm near Palm Springs, California.
is that? Near LA, Los Angeles?
It's about 2 hours east of LA.
Okay, I've been to Los Angeles once or twice.
Did you like it?
Yes, very interesting place. I visited a friend out there, and they had Koreatown and Japantown, and it was so interesting. You have everything. You have everything you have.
In LA, but I don't think we have it in the desert because I don't think we have any of those types of things. I'll look, but I don't think we have it.
Oh, yeah, I guess maybe because it's Los Angeles and there are a lot of immigrants.
Oh yeah, that's a big city. Yeah, there's definitely those areas.
Yeah.
They have Little Tokyo, I think it's called, one of them.
Yeah, Little Tokyo. I think they had a Little Korea as well. It was so funny because all the street signs were in the look like Japanese and Korean as well.
That's cool.
Yeah. But I grew up watching shows like your, what's his name? David Letterman. They actually aired David Letterman in Hong Kong.
That's funny.
Yeah. I know he's not on the air anymore, but he was a funny dude. I don't know why they showed David Letterman, but they didn't show Jay Leno for some reason. Okay, I'm gonna add the last little bit. Smells really good. I don't know if you can see, but I'm gonna add it in. And I never know if it's gonna fit into the jar, but so far I've been lucky. It always fits.
You put it like in a mason jar?
Yeah, this time I've actually got a new one. I'm trying out this Fido jar, but the one that I've prepared, and I'll show you in a bit, but I use this type of jar as well. You can use any jar as long as it's kind of airtight, I guess. But even with the airtight jars, I found that you need to, well, it's best. I recommend that you loosen the lids once a day. Otherwise, you could have an explosion just because of the gases that come out during the fermentation process if you leave it too long. So that's what I've been doing with these ones. Right? It is looking good. All of that spices are getting mixed in, and you know, the pear and the dates really makes it sweet. So you can actually taste it as you make it. You don't have to wait for it to be fermented. So I'm gonna show you. Can you see?
It looks delicious.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have a taste. It's kind of sweet because of the dates and it's sweet and spicy. So So like I said, I'm gonna add a little bit more. You don't have to, but I just like it to be spicy. So I'm gonna add a little bit more of my gochugaru, red pepper flake. I'm gonna add one more heaped spoonful. This is to taste though. It's totally your preference how much. Some people use very little. Some people use tons. Totally individual, up to you. I'm gonna mix this in. How did you, I was gonna ask you though, how did you were vegan long before you discovered, Dr. McDougall and the other plant-based doctors, but what made you go vegan initially?
Oh, just the animals. I was a freshman at the University of Pennsylvania, and, we didn't have to because I ended up not doing it, experimenting on animals because I was trying to be a veterinarian and I couldn't do it. I did one animal and I just could never do anything like that again. So I became an instant vegan.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it on American TV shows. Like you have to dissect a frog as part of your curriculum.
I hope they don't have to do that anymore. But when I went to school, you had to dissect. These animals were dead, but not that makes it any better. So we had to do the frog, and we actually had to, in anatomy class, a cat. And it was just horrific. I could not tolerate it. It was just.
Oh gosh, I didn't know about the cat. What does that involve?
Well, the cat is obviously, I even hate talking about this. They're dead first, but because you have to, I don't know, you have to memorize every single muscle, and it just was disgusting. And I basically almost flunked out of college because I couldn't do it. And there was no PCRM or PETA back then to protect me or say that I had rights to not do it. And so I tried to switch my major, but that didn't work out either. So I ended up leaving Penn after a couple of years and taking a 17-year hiatus till I actually went back to college and got a degree. But yeah, I couldn't harm an animal, even a dead one. And so that's why. But I was very, very unhealthy because there was really no information in 1977 on how to do a healthy vegan diet. And so I just did a junk food vegan diet. And just removing animal products from your diet, while great for the animals, is not just the way to be healthy. You have to actually eat like fruits and vegetables, which I did too, till I was in my 40s. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. But how did your friends also go vegan or?
No way. Nobody went vegan because of me, at least that I knew of back then. No, not at all. No. As a matter of fact, the louder I touted the benefits, the more it pushed people away. So.
Were you one of those pushy vegans?
Well, not really. Was I back then? I don't think I was back then, but it's hard to know.
Pushy vegan is a myth that's made up to make vegans shut
It's funny because I'm doing stand-up comedy tomorrow and everybody's invited. It's free. And my whole set is about being an annoying vegan. I think more annoying than pushy, because I think people think you are holier than thou,
Yeah.
Yep. Question, are there different types of kimchi?
Yes, there are so many different types of kimchi. Some kimchi just uses radish without the cabbage, and it's just the ingredients that can vary slightly. But there are so many different types depending on what vegetable you want to ferment. Final step before packing, I'm going to add some cut up spring onion, green onion. I'm just going to throw them in and again gently mix it. I add them last because they can break if you're mixing too vigorously. So that's why I add them last.
There's a question, do you do Korean barbecue?
Not since going raw. But I've seen some really innovative recipes by Raw Chef Yin. I'm pretty sure she could come up with a raw vegan version of Korean barbecue.
Well, she's coming back on the show next year. Maybe I can ask her to make that,
Yeah, I'm gonna ask her too. She's got amazing recipes like ikan bakar, which is traditionally like a fish recipe. I'm not sure if it's steamed fish or smoked fish. And she's got nasi goreng, which I didn't know could even be done raw vegan until it was thanks to the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle that I even discovered Raw Chef Ian.
Oh, so now do you guys know each other now?
Yeah, it's thanks to the promoting the bundle together that I had the excuse to reach out to her. Because otherwise, I think I would have been too shy, you know, like.
Yeah. No, I met a lot of cool people from that bundle that I never would have met before.
Yeah, I saw you were doing a lot of lives with like.
Yeah, I did at least one a day from the bundle. Yeah.
Yeah, with Lisa at Raw Food Romance, and I saw you had one with Chris Kendall.
Right, and we had one was all the way from Italy with Chef Ocean and Victoria. They made a raw tiramisu, and they had no equipment either, other than a knife.
Yes. Oh, Chef AJ's book, Muscle Feel. Amazing. Yes. His tuna salad recipe looks. I would never have guessed that was. It looks like tuna, so I would never have guessed. I'm gonna just put this to one side because we are ready to start packing in. And normally, I actually don't normally use gloves, but it can be quite slow. So I'm gonna do it with the gloves this time. I'm gonna grab the kimchi and start putting it into my jar. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I answered your question earlier about how long it takes to ferment, but in this climate in Hong Kong, it takes about 2 or 3 days. But in a cooler climate, I suppose it could take longer.
But are you gonna put it in the fridge right away, or do you ferment it at room temperature first?
Room temperature. And then later you put it in the fridge. If you put it in the fridge too soon, it will slow the fermentation process. It actually continues to ferment after you put it in the fridge, right? Just that it's slower. Ooh, no, I dropped some kimchi. Not to worry. Put it in. And then you start packing it down. So pressing down on it. And put the rest in. It's quite early there. Have you had breakfast?
No, not yet. I generally don't eat until after the show at noon, so noon or 1 o'clock. I just never did eat breakfast. So, but I'm having broth. It's called pot liquor. That's what I have in the morning, a warm beverage.
Pot liquor? What's that?
Yeah. So we eat vegetables for breakfast. Well, my breakfast is lunch, but my husband does, and so I cook his greens, and it's the liquid left over. So it's like veggie broth, basically. It's just water that the vegetables have cooked in. It's warm, and I don't know, I just drank it for a long time. He says I'm stealing all his nutrients, but it tastes so good. I hate to throw it away with all those nutrients. So, yep.
It's quite chilly in the morning there now.
Oh yeah, it can be as low as 60. It's mostly in the 90s here. It's like it never gets under. I don't know when it's ever been under 90. Our winter is like everybody else's summer, but the thing is it's not humid, and people don't understand when it's not humid. It's so pleasant. It doesn't feel oppressive. I mean, maybe August does, but the rest of the year is great. What's the weather in Hong Kong? Is it a humid climate?
It is very humid in the summer. We actually don't have winter as such. It doesn't snow here because we're so close to the equator.
Yeah, Mandy wants to know what's winter like in Hong Kong. Yeah, we don't. I think it's very rarely snowed in Southern California, maybe like once in my lifetime.
I think it actually did snow like a long time ago in Hong Kong, like before I was born. I actually looked it up because I was curious. I think back in the 1960s.
Were you born in Hong Kong?
Yes, I was. But I
Wow.
was born in the 80s. Yeah, Hong Kong was actually a British colony. A lot of people ask me.
Well, your accent, you sound British.
Because I went to various British schools, that's why. I have like a strange hybrid accent. I like to call it the colonial accent because my British friends say I sound American.
That's so funny because
It is funny. I've had some people tell me I sound Australian too.
well, Mandy from Australia is watching. Mandy, does she sound Australian?
Oh yes, she's Raw Koala on Instagram. Hi, Raw Koala.
Oh, funny, you know her. Carmela says it's easy to find vegan options in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty easy. And our wet markets are so nice in terms of fruit. We get durians year round. So
Durian's the one that's kind of stinky, right?
kind of.
Yeah, I think I had it in culinary school and I think it tasted okay, but I just remember I didn't think I liked the smell very much.
It's an acquired taste. I used to tell you what, Chef AJ, I used to hate durian. I used to hate it, like with passion. I don't know what happened. Once you get hooked, you just get hooked, I guess. But, ooh, this is the first time this has happened. I've got some left, which I'm not sure will actually fit. I think it
Oh,
will.
you'll have to eat it then.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Maybe I will. Just a minute. Yeah, I think I'll have the last little bit. I know that some people like to say that you should put an extra piece of cabbage on the top or to submerge it in water, but I found that that is not actually necessary. But you can do it if you like. I find that just with the jar lid, it's enough to keep the air out because the gases from the fermentation process itself is gonna push up. So there's not really a worry of it spoiling. I've never had kimchi go bad. They say that you have to submerge it so that it doesn't get exposed to the air, so that it doesn't go bad. But like I said, I've never had that experience of kimchi going bad. So, but that's just me. Anyway, I am going to remove this and then show you the finished product. Because I actually did make some, like I said, a few days ago, so that I could show you on the live show. This is the finished product. It yielded 3 of these smaller jars. So I've got these 3. And I opened this morning, so I don't know if it's gonna bubble up, but when you actually open up, you can see the fermentation process in action because the air bubbles will come out. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to catch it on video, but when you press down, can you see the bubbles?
Maybe tilt it a little bit more when you talk. You have to talk.
Can you see the, oh no, it doesn't really feel. Let's try it with the second jar. I want to show you the bubbles. The bubbles get me excited. Can you see? Yeah, there.
Yeah, I did see the bubbles that time. Yep, cool.
Yeah, bubbles, bubbles, bubbles. So that will show you that the fermentation process is happening and it's not in your imagination. And the smell changes too. It develops a kind of sour taste. But yeah, that's it. All you have to do is close the lid. I like to kind of clean it up before I do that, but you just close the lid and then keep it in a cool, dry, dark place for 2 to 3 days, and then voila, that's it. And then you keep it in the fridge and eat it over the course of days, weeks, months. Mine disappears pretty quick. But yes, that is it. And I have a little bit left, so I think I'm gonna have a little bit more of a taste here for you. Kimchi, You know how they say cheese for the camera in the West?
Yeah.
We say kimchi.
Oh yeah, that's so cute. We should all start saying that now because cheese isn't vegan. I love that. Well, this was so fun, really cool. I hope people will make this recipe because it's not that hard.
Yeah, it's super simple. And like I said, you can't really go wrong. All you need, at the basic level, is the sugars to ferment the vegetables. And the vegetables can be anything you like. It can be cucumber, it can be radish, it can be cauliflower even.
Carrot maybe?
Yeah, I've actually got carrots in here.
And so you just want to get that big leaf as kind of like to pack it in, right?
You mean the cabbage?
Yeah, the cabbage leaf. Like when you pack it, you do need like one of those big leaves, right?
You can. I have not done so. Like I said, I think that the reason why people do that is they're worried that the vegetables will be exposed to the air and it'll somehow mess up the fermentation process. But I haven't had that issue myself. So always put it to the test, Chef AJ.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to try this. Well, what does Teddy think of all this?
Teddy is super excited, but like I said, he is a breatharian, so he does not eat any of mine. He just joins me. He watches me.
That's funny. Well, he should have his own channel. Oh gosh, it's almost midnight. Yeah, he's not interested. That's so good. Very neat. I hope you guys will make this because this was such a fun demo. And I always wondered how you can do it without salt. I've seen sauerkraut without salt, so I figured kimchi, it could be done.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, if people want to follow you or get involved with you, I don't know if you teach classes or what, how would they get in touch with you? I put everything in the show notes, but not everybody looks below.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, my Instagram handle is at bear_with_girl. And I do help women who are dealing with acne or dysmenorrhea. So if you'd like to reach out to me directly, you can do so on my Instagram page or even on my YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel too, and it's called Bear With Me Girl. So feel free to reach out.
That's very cool. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for staying up so late to do this wonderful recipe, Jung Soo.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much, Chef AJ.
My pleasure. And it's so nice to meet you and Teddy. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back in 3 hours when my guest from India, we're going all over the globe today, is Dr. Anshul Gupta. And he's going to talk about reversing Hashimoto's, which a lot of people have. And so congratulations on reclaiming your health.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course. And thank you for your wonderful recipe and the work you do. Take care, everyone.